But we think the crisis in Iran is more urgent right now than the campaign here at home. Some 60 Americans, including our fellow citizen whom you just saw bound and blindfolded, are now beginning their 6th day of captivity inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. It's Friday morning there now. But throughout this night in Washington, officials will continue their search for some way to negotiate the hostages' freedom. That search was not successful today.
The hostages at the American embassy still give no sign of allowing an independent appraisal of their condition. At the government level, there is no serious sign of wanting to negotiate an end to the Iranian-American crisis. Today, Iran has moved one step closer to becoming a nation which will be run under the guidelines of Islam. It was the second day of voting for an Islamic...
What was life in Iran like for you prior to the revolution?
Prior to the revolution, it was a great life. I remember vacationing to Europe with my family. I remember vacationing to United States. It was no problem to go and get visa, to get out of the country and go wherever in the world you wanted. The civilization, hospitalization, education, everything in Iran was advancing under the Shah's government, the Shah of Iran. The Shah is another name for king. That's the Persian word for king. So the king of Iran really focused on helping the country to go the right direction, and education was a primary focus that could lead into advancement in other areas. So in terms of fashion, ladies were very high on fashion. The clothes that I used to wear in Iran came straight from France, Europe, Italy. I remember in 1979 when I came to America, I wore those t-shirts that you tied one side of it up and the other side was hanging down. And when I walked into school with one of them, everybody was saying, "This is so cool. Where did you get that? I've never seen that." And then a year later, I saw those t-shirts coming to America. So that's how advanced Iran used to be in terms of fashion and being on top of that. Mm-hmm. So we enjoyed the life before the revolution. It was a great life. A lot of freedom in terms of doing the things that cannot be done today.
How did things change for you, your personal life, your family, during the revolution?
He basically headed up the engineering department of electronic engineering department of the Air Force and had hundreds of people reporting to him. So naturally, as a leader that represented the Shah's government, during the revolution, we were very worried about his life and his well-being. The new government was assassinating a lot of people that we referred to as uncles, just close friends of my father during the Shah's government. And it was a very concerning time because we didn't know, as they were assassinating so many military people and getting rid of them, how it was going to affect my dad. We were getting all kinds of threatening calls that they were going to burn our house and kill my dad and everything. But we were fortunate that that did not happen. Instead, they froze my dad's status from getting out of the country, and they did not allow him to leave. So as a result, he and the rest of my family got stuck in Iran. And the mission became, how could we get out of the country?
What was going through the people's minds at the time, and what was going through yours? What were some of the emotions that you felt during that time?
Okay, so I was very young. I was only about 13 years old, so it wasn't impacting me as much as many of the adults in terms of the seriousness of it. What was going through the people's mind was a lot of enthusiasm and excitement because they thought with the revolution, a new government would come and they could speak free, with freedom. They could do whatever they want that they weren't allowed before. And the problem with the previous regime was because it was a kingdom structure, the king tried to keep the power within his family. So in order to make sure that his son was going to be the next king, and in order to make sure that again his family and his administration were not going to lose power, they had to destroy a lot of obstacles, people who were threats, people who, even if they made one negative comment about the government, they would destroy them because they would see them as a threat. So it got to the point that there were a lot of angry people in Iran because their son or daughter or sibling or somebody who was a writer or who was a news representative or whatever, they got killed, they were in prison and tortured and all kinds of ramifications. And so because it impacted so many lives over the years in Iran, there were so many angry people that were looking for a change. They never thought that there was going to be a regime that would really be a lot worse than the old regime, and they never realized that they were going to lose a lot of the great things that they had, that the Shah had done in a positive way. So that's how it impacted people at that time. For me and my family, we were torn about the fact that the Shah was leaving Iran and it was going to be a huge change. We were very uncertain of what the new leader was going to be like. For me personally, when I heard that women have to wear chador and they're not going to be able to work and continue their lives like they used to, I knew it was not going to be the right place for me to live.